Good morning. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everybody for stopping and liking the webpage, and for all your love and support, and for liking and sharing the videos and sharing your own stories. So I'm just really excited about this, and I just love the opportunity to share about myself so that you guys can get to know me a little bit better. So as I mentioned in the first video, all of this started pretty much because of a near-death experience that I had on June 5th, 2000, and that was on the day that my daughter was born. Now, I have two children. I have a son, Mateo, who is 22 years old, and he was born in 1997 on December 24th. I had a very, very difficult pregnancy with him as well. A lot of experiences with him as well. And fast forward 2.5 years later, on June 5th, 2000, when my daughter was being born, I had very, very difficult pregnancies. My doctors did not even want me to have any children, and I made a decision to have my daughter. It was another very difficult pregnancy, and on the day that she was born, not during her birth, I had an epidural. So an epidural is where they just put in a catheter and they insert it into the spine, and they give an injection of anesthesia, so where you're numb from the waist down. So I had that during her birth with absolutely no complications, and we had scheduled a surgery later that day. Because of the difficult pregnancy, I didn't have to wait to go into labor with her. She was actually scheduled and induced out of medical necessity. And so because it was proven that I definitely could not have kids, and it was just really medically difficult for my body to even try to have and conceive children, we made the decision to tie my tubes. So it was during that procedure that I had my near-death experience. So because they knew that the surgery was coming up, they didn't remove the epidural. The catheter that was inserted into the spine remained, so that the anesthesiologist just could come and insert the proper dosage for the operation later. So after my daughter was born without incident, beautiful Bianca, she was born around 12:42 in the afternoon, and the surgery wasn't until a few hours later. So what I remember is my mom, Bernadette, holding my Bianca, and she was the last thing I remember seeing. And with that idea in mind, thinking that everything's going to be okay, she's in good hands, she's fine now, the anesthesiologist came in, gave me the dosage through the epidural, and I had a reaction. I was supposed to be numb from the waist down, and completely alert and awake and fully conscious through the entire procedure. Well, that did not happen. I ended up having a severe reaction to the anesthesia that was inserted through the epidural. I almost instantaneously started to go out. I remember being wheeled out into the hallway, and the anesthesiologist just saying, "Miss Martinez, are you okay?" It's the last thing I remember. I remember them frantic and trying to, I heard sounds kind of intermittently. And what I remember then is suddenly this feeling of peace. And I was aware of the entire room and of the people around me, the doctors, and they were frantic. The nurses, they were frantic, running around the room. They had wheeled me into the operating room, and they instantly had to intubate me and a few other things for the resuscitation and just to stabilize me. I was watching all of this happen from above. So it was as I was on the bed, and there were people frantic running around, but I was hovering above myself, seeing all of this, and I had no emotion to it. I wasn't afraid. I was just very detached. And when that happened, I started to feel myself float, if you will, like float above myself, and feeling this sense of calm. And suddenly it felt as if I had turned and started to rise. At the same time, it was a sensation of being lifted, but things started to go white. People talk about a tunnel. I didn't really see a tunnel. It just seemed like the entire room, from a singularity, a single point, started to go white throughout the entire room. When this happened, I found myself in a place outside of time and space. It was the whitest of the white, the brightest of the bright, brighter than like being inside of a sun or a star. Well, the sun is a star. But it didn't burn my eyes. It didn't hurt. I could hear like singing, but it wasn't singing. And I could hear music and instruments, but it wasn't instruments. It was like the very air around me was alive and had this angelic, peaceful feeling, unlike anything I've ever experienced in life. And from that moment, I became aware of a presence, aware of a being. It wasn't to me like an angel. It wasn't a loved one. It was just this being of absolute light. It was like, I guess you can say, an angel, but it wasn't an angel. It was the absolute most loving, most caring feeling that I had ever had in my life. And it was bringing in an embrace. And it was not a communication with my voice, but it was a communion with understanding and knowing. And I was told like I wasn't supposed to be there, but I was welcomed, and it felt like respite. It felt like care. It felt like a break. It felt like rest. And in that moment, everything just slipped away. It was the most incredible feeling I had ever felt. And from that experience, I had been shown multiple things. I had been shown parts of my life, growing up, things that I had experienced. And it was somewhat of a life review, but it was nobody showing me to judge me. It was things that I was looking at specifically for myself. It was a very loving, but a very stern feeling, a feeling of care and concern. And from this place, I was shown, again, different things of my life. I was shown the things that I, as a soul, had agreed to do in this lifetime, here on earth, while alive as Maria Lupita. I was told that I was not doing the things that I had committed to doing, which was to helping people. So from that, I was shown other things. I remember having an image of the earth, an image of the cosmos, being shown how everything is interconnected, and that even though we are so tiny, we are incredibly important, that all of the universe flows through us, and how each and every single one of us has a unique gift and ability and a purpose and a reason for being here. I didn't understand it at the time. So in that moment, I guess my question, well, what am I supposed to do? So up until that time, I was married, I was going through life, doing the traditional social thing, what society expects. I had the job, I had the 2 kids, I had the animal, I had the pet, I had the large house, everything was going fine, but something was not fine. I was missing something inside, and I knew it. And so during that experience, I was refreshed. I was given respite, like I said, and an ability to remember. Then I was shown this field, what looked like this drop of a loma, a mountain, a hill. And from this loma, from this hill, from where I was standing, there was this field of flowers. And they looked to be all glowing in different unique colors. If you could imagine a field of millions of flowers, all with a unique color, vibrant, bright, and each of them glowing. And I was told that each of them represented a soul, and each of them were a soul that I was meant to touch somehow. Well, it scared me, because how am I? Who am I? And how am I supposed to do something like that? And what I was told is that I did not commit to serving in the way that I said that I would do, that I was denying my gifts and denying the very thing that God put me here for. So then I was given a choice. I was given a choice that I could either continue in this body, in this time, or I could remain. And I wanted to remain. I wanted to stay. But then it was also explained to me that these agreements that we make as souls, it's something that we commit to. We choose. Nobody chooses for us. I choose it. Something I commit to, something that my soul desires and wants. See, when we're on the other side, we have all-knowing. We know patience, we know love, we know peace, we know tolerance. But how do we put that into practice unless we're here? So we are here to put those things that we know as a soul into practice. That's the whole point. That's why we're here. So it was explained to me that if I chose to stay, that as a soul, I would have to re-experience those things that I committed to. Wow. After the hardships, the things that I had gone through, the things that I was going through, there was no way on earth that I wanted to go through it again. So in that moment, I realized that we have a choice, that these things and this life is something that we choose. God doesn't make us. Nobody else makes us. Whatever we are experiencing in life, it's because our soul chose it. And God loves us so immensely that gives us the opportunity to experience anything and everything. And so we as a soul come into this world with the hope and the desire that we will be able to put into practice the things that we know as a soul. And that's what we're here for. And that's what I was told, that I was to help not only myself understand that, but to help that sea of flowers that represented souls and how to do the same. I was not told how. I wasn't explained or shown what would happen. Only simply that that's what I chose. And that if I did not wish to continue, that I would re-experience it. So in that moment, I was shown different aspects of my life. And in that moment, I was given what looked like a vision. It's hard to describe, but it looked like, if you've seen Harry Potter, there's a moment in there where it looks like a photograph, and the photograph is alive and moving. Well, it was something similar to that. And what I was shown was an image of my brand new, daughter, not even 4 hours old. And just the thought of her, of my Bianca, thinking, oh my God, I can't leave my daughter. I can't leave her on the day that she's born. And with that decision, with that choice, it was as if I was shoved from a 10-story building and slammed right back into my body. In that moment, it hurt. It hurt like the most painful thing that I could ever experience or imagine. To feel the full weight of experience and life and pressures, and then the body, and then, everything that I had just gone through. I had just given birth and I was going through a surgery. I could not move. I couldn't say a word. I couldn't let them know that I was there, that I was okay. And I remember one nurse shouting out, "We've got her." I remember things being pulled from my chest. I had an intubation tube. I felt like I was choking. I was starting to convulse, and the only thing I could muster up was the one single tear out of this eye. And I remember what I thought was a nurse at the time, but I recognize now that it wasn't. That it felt like an angelic being just cradling my head from behind me and just whispering into my ear, everything is going to be okay. And that's the last thing that I remember of that experience, and then just the pain of being there. Now the anesthesia, it's an incredible thing, anesthesia. There's a study going on about how anesthesia interacts with the body and the soul and where we go during that time. But during that time, I could feel, they proceeded with the surgery. I continued, and once they stabilized me, they fully continued. I had the tubal ligation, and I could feel everything. Once they took out the intubation, it felt like I was paralyzed, like I had been buried alive. I could not move a muscle, but yet I was completely alert. So if you've heard those horror stories of people being alert during surgery, I was one of them. After the near-death experience, I didn't feel pain, but I was alert. That's what was supposed to happen originally with the anesthesia. I did not have the mask. I did not count down. I was not put under general anesthesia. This experience that I had did not make sense. I could understand if someone said that I was put under general anesthesia and that the mind creates stories almost like a dream, but that did not happen. I was given an epidural. I was given an injection where I was supposed to be awake and alert. So after the experience, after they brought me to, I was alert, although still out of it because of the experience that I had had. It took me, they told my mother that and my ex-husband that I was only supposed to be gone for, about 45 minutes to an hour. And by the time everything was said and done, it was about 2.5 hours. My mom finally came to the recovery room after the surgery, and I was hysterically just crying, and my body was just convulsing erratically, not able to control itself. I had a very, very hard time coming out of the anesthesia and stabilizing my body and stabilizing myself. And my mom just took one look at me and asked what happened. And all I could do was cry. I didn't know what happened. I didn't understand what happened. I had no words to explain it. And it would take me some time, quite some time afterwards, to really fully understand all of it. So, after that, stabilized, and then I think my daughter felt it. I remember being in the hospital for recovery for about 3 days. And every time I would try to set her down into the little bassinet, the little plastic bassinet that they would have at the bedside in the hospital, she would just scream. So there she camped with me. I put pillows all around me and just hold her. And there we were, she and I. And so my daughter saved my life. And she knows what I mean when I say that she saved me twice. She probably saved me more than that. But that was my near-death experience. From that, every single thing that I had been experiencing and denying before. See, so I had experiences growing up, but I didn't know how to deal with them. Who am I? What is any of this? But man, was I fascinated by others who could do this, not knowing and understanding that I could do that for myself. Through a near-death experience, something happens where this energy remains. It is like I still am in between. It's like I straddle between both worlds, between the living and the other world. This other world to me is just as real as this world, and it's super laced within it. It's not separate. They're together and interlaced. Our loved ones continue. It's an energy that that extends. It's here with us, around us. And it's something that I had to learn how to perceive, how to understand, how to work with. So I was told that I was not fulfilling my life's purpose, that I was not fulfilling the agreement that I had made with God, which was to use these abilities to help people. It's always been my intention and purpose, even before this happened. And now this. So because I had had experiences before and I didn't understand it, it scared me. I called it a curse. And so after this near-death experience, this curse got worse. Didn't know what to do with it. As all the wind just totally rises up. So I had to understand for the next 3 years after that what had happened to me. I was insatiable. I would read everything I could get my hands on. Every book about near-death experiences, about other people who have had it, about past lives, about interlife, about reincarnation, about all of these other things that I was just beginning to understand for myself because of this near-death experience. There is so much to this world and this reality that we can't even begin to understand. There's so much to say, so much that I have learned, so much that I have been able to help others with. It is absolutely extraordinary. That was 20 years ago. Again, June 5th, 2000. So over the course of 20 years, really honing this, understanding it, working it, understanding it for myself. So for 3 years after that happened, I fell into a massively deep depression. People thought it was a postpartum depression, and it really wasn't. I was just so depressed of being here. Being here is the hardest thing. We think that hell is someplace we go afterwards. Well, some people are living it here, and I know that at the time, in parts, I was too. So this is our job, is to be here to bring our soul's purpose and desire forward in the way that God intended, so that we could create heaven on earth. That's what it's about. So after the 3 years, by that time I had seen 4 different doctors. They had already attempted to put me on antidepressants, which did not work. It only made things worse. And so I had to understand it and work it. I prayed on it. And what shifted everything for me, my faith is strong. My faith is everything about me. So if you know me, you know this about me. So in praying about it and being shown what to do, it was an entire process about understanding it. So little by little, I started to read. I would learn and watch others, which didn't help because their gift and ability shows up in their way. And I was also connecting with other people who were intuitives, and I thought that every single person who does this kind of work has a pure intention. Well, I learned the hard way that they don't. There's a lot of people out there who do have these abilities that really do take advantage of people, and it's people like that that give me a bad name. I had to really, really overcome all the stigmas, everything about it, and that's a whole other story in and of itself. So I'll spend some time talking about that, about how I made peace with this. Born and raised Catholic, what the hell is happening to me? What's going on? Who can help me? Who can help me understand this? Again, I will put that in another separate video because that is deserving of its own time and energy and how all that came to be. So just know that for the purposes of this video was just to talk about that near-death experience, and I'm sure that there's so much more in there to explain or describe, but that's the gist of it. So because I had that near-death experience, because I was shown the soul agreement, I was shown what the purpose was, I was shown this greater, bigger picture of what we are, who we are, where we go, what happens to us, why we're here. We chose it. God allowed it. Here we are. So let's make the best of it. So I'm here to help and any way possible that I can. So, gosh, I struggle with so much to say because there's so much to say. I have so much experience and so much stories, and I'm fighting myself to tell them all. So I think I'll stop for now, and I'll just hold on to that for later. But because it happened, I think the most important thing to carry away from this is that a near-death experience, and not everybody comes out of it being psychic and a medium. That was my purpose. I was meant to help people. And from that, being a psychic medium, whatever I had before got amplified, sensing and feeling things about people and loved ones, complete strangers, and a lot of other experiences, a lot of other experiences that I'll share later, incredible experiences and stories. But what I have come to understand is that a person who has had a near-death experience straddles between both worlds. I am very much immersed in this material world and very much immersed in the other world, and it's not like I can detach myself from it so easily, so I've had to learn how to work with it. I can't disconnect it and I can't stop it, but I've learned how to modulate it. And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes I imagine that I have a remote control. It's on all the time, like a television in the background, but I could mute it, change the channel, increase the volume, decrease the volume, or walk away. and not pay attention to it at all. And so it's been a process of learning how to do that. So that's probably something I'll share in an upcoming video as well. So thank you so much for allowing me to share. Thank you for your time, your self-love, support, and if there's another curiosity that you have, be sure to let me know. Like I said, if it's appropriate, maybe I'll share it in a future video. So thank you so much.